Now the mic is on. Great. Okay. So just a short introduction of what today's event is going to be. We all are printers, I guess, or in the wrong room? Brand owners. Something to do with print? Yeah? Any Pani Puri walas over here? Okay, so everybody's something to do with print. Pune wala, there's a Pune wala over here. You can leave the room, please. Should I go too? Okay, so because we are all connected with the printing industry, we are also connected with color. And color standardization is a huge, huge topic. I think it's very relevant in today's world where we need to differentiate ourselves from other printers. The way we can do it is by being different. Now, unfortunately, standardization of color is not being different. It's like it's a necessity. But in today's world, very few people follow it. So even if you can start by standardizing your color, I think you can be different from the other crowd. So we've got an expert here, Mr. Steve Smiley, and this seminar is hosted and arranged by Nareshji of IPP. And I'm going to give over the mic to Nareshji, who's going to introduce Steve and then kick off the seminar. Can we have the timer? So then let me just tell you, we have copies, we can give them to you. We will be doing the basics of color control and lab and spectral curves, and then we'll have a guest speaker from Sakata Inks, and we'll break at 5 to 5:20, so for 20 minutes. After that, there'll be a presentation by Mr. Steve, and then we'll end by about 7:15. And after that, there's tea, coffee? Okay. There's dinner after that, so great. So cocktails and dinner, so lovely. Over to you, Naresh, and thank you all for coming. Great. My name is Fahim Agbotwala. I am the president of the Bombay Master Printers Association. We are the guys who have coordinated with IPP in Delhi to bring Steve over here to Mumbai. And if you're not aware of what BMPA is doing, please visit our website. It's called bmpa.org. We're doing a lot of stuff to Mumbai printers, and we'd love to hear from you as to what we can else do for your benefit. Thank you, everybody. Thanks once again. Over to you, Naresh.
Okay. Thank you, Fahim. And once again, welcome and good afternoon to all of you. And this is an unusual event, I think, in the country. We just did one like this in Delhi on Saturday, where we tried to create a platform for the brand owners and some of the leading packaging printers and converters to get together and on the same platform discuss some of the issues of color management and standardization, and also the issue of the packaging workflow. What is the supply chain? What happens where? Who's responsible for what? Before we begin, I will take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what my organization is, what my organization does. Normally, I don't do this. I don't talk a lot about my organization, either because I assume everyone knows, or I assume nobody wants to know, okay? But I will take the liberty and I will indulge your politeness and tell you a little bit about my organization. Actually, we began as an independent consulting and publishing organization in 1979. And we started a magazine called Indian Printer and Publisher, which some of you may have seen over the years. So it is a monthly magazine started in 1979. So I think it's, I don't know, it's 35 or 36 years old, something like that. And we also began consulting at that time to various printers around the country, Thomson Press, Tata Press at one time, Malayalam Manorama, various things which will come up in other slides. I won't bore you with that just now. In 2001, we started an organization called IPP Star, which stands for Services, Training and Research. And the reason was that we thought that the printing industry in India should not come into the 21st century without some kind of a neutral, separate technical organization to look at issues such as standards, education, training, and also that the industry did not seem to have very good information about itself. Like nobody could really answer, how many printers there are in India, or what they do, or how many people they employ, or what are the segments and what value they create. And we felt eventually one day somebody will want to go to a minister with some proper information to describe what this industry is about and to make some reasonable and interesting requests to that government about what this industry is. And it's in fact a very, very huge industry, but it's a very fragmented industry. So we have spent most of the last 16 years researching this industry. We've done more than 6,000 face-to-face interviews in more than 100 cities, okay? Face-to-face interviews. And we have also done about 1,500 what we call Delphi interviews, which means telephone interviews of people where we check the information, validate the information, and we transparently share the information with our expert informants. And then we filter that out into the kind of information that we actually provide to some of our subscribers. We did many other things, okay? We did a lot of color management seminars and discussions, etc. A lot. Next slide, please. We started our IPP conferences in 1994. Some of you know about these conferences. The conference in 1995 was held in the Centaur Hotel in Juhu, where actually the Bombay printers were so enthusiastic they were breaking down the doors with cash in their hand. I mean, it was a kind of an amazing sight. And these were quite interesting conferences. Some of them became user conferences. They went around the world. We also thought we will go to Bangalore, then we'll go to Sri Lanka, we'll go to Kathmandu. None of that happened, okay? It collapsed, more or less, to some extent. But we did 13 conferences. Then we did color management certificate courses, 5-day courses with a certificate where we called Paul Lindström from Malmö University in Sweden. We did these courses in Don Bosco Institute in Delhi. We did it in Anna University in Chennai. So we did many of these things. By that time, we had developed a huge research of the Indian printing industry, and the first people to invite us to present it in some form were the American researchers of the print industry, which is an organization called Premier, and we presented this in Portland, Oregon. And then Fred also invited me at one point to make a research presentation in Goa, where I almost got beaten up by the master printers for various other reasons. Because I implied that, various things about the printing industry could be better, okay? And they were quite angry with me. Let's put it at that. And then we presented a business breakfast, which was sponsored by Drupa, where we again presented research of the Indian printing industry. So a lot of people are actually interested around the world in what is happening in the Indian printing industry. And they want real facts. They don't want, crores mixed up with millions and billions. They don't want a zero here and there. They want real hard information. And IPP Star has that. IPP Star is a very valuable company because of the knowledge and information it has. And most of all, because of the trust it has with the people it interviews. In our research, we follow the we follow an ISO model where people actually trust us. We interview you for 45 minutes, but we don't give your individual information to anyone. The information that we develop and we digest does not name any individual printer or packaging company or brand owner, etc. And we interview brand owners. Our method of research is we interview the end users, which are the brand owners, we interview the processors, and we interview the input providers, which are the suppliers, the people who make the machines and the inks and the paper. So we interview all three segments of the system. And we have a fairly sophisticated amount of data and research. In 2012, we actually met up with Idea Alliance, and we decided that the Idea Alliance is an interesting company in America, interesting organization, which has a back end which is fairly transparent, and that they have a lot of training which can be made available easily over the internet. I feel this is important because Indian printers do not like to send their people anywhere for training. They feel that sometimes these people will be hired away, or they will be lured away, or the people will not come back, or that for various reasons it's not very easy to send people from a plant into a training facility. There have been training facilities in India. Heidelberg had one, Autoprint has one, there is a Avery Dennison Center in Bangalore, but they are not yet working as well as they need to work, because the printing community is not yet very enthusiastic about sending its people for training. And they would rather have training in-house and other kinds of training. And Idea Alliance provides a lot of online training, online learning. They have about 25 courses right now in color management which are available online, including a course on Flexo that they're working on. They have a course for creatives, and we are planning to do a webinar for creatives also for color management. That means there's always the link of color management, although Idea Alliance also is working on standards for interactive magazines, tablets, and other kinds of media-related issues. Idea Alliance is a very, very interesting organization, and we decided to ally with that. Then, basically, we conducted some training last year in Delhi and Mumbai, where we trained about 50 people to being color management professionals, where they took the course in Delhi and Mumbai, and they can take the exam online. And they can take the exam twice, 3 times online. We want them to pass. And when they become members of Idea Alliance, companies become members of an Idea Alliance, they are listed on the Idea Alliance website. And when people pass an exam and become qualified or an expert in color management, suppose they become color management professional, they are also listed on the Idea Alliance. So that means the people in your company are acknowledged. They are given something back for their training and their achievement, and they are given some recognition, which we feel is very important. And essentially, now we are talking about, and we are addressing this issue in a very focused way, because we feel that color management, although IPP Star has been one of the leading companies in talking about it, we feel, how long will this go on simply as talk? How do we translate this into some practical effort on the ground? That means, how do we actually enact some kind of color management in industry, in the printing industry, packaging industry, and from the user community, the brand owners? So we felt that some pressure can be brought onto the community only by making the brand owners aware that this is not some impossible dream, but it can be done. And this is why we are primarily here. Okay, I'll just go through the other 2 slides quickly. You can go through the next one. We have had many research clients over the years. We've had an international digital press manufacturer. We did a multi-client project for 3-4 years in 2001. We've had international manufacturers to research CTP and digital print in India. We did one project with no client where we interviewed the leading 100 multicolor printers of India. Of course, we interviewed 300, but we told them that we are interviewing the leading 100. They were very enthusiastic, and we got a lot of information from them. We did some other work for an international press manufacturer on heat set. We did some work for a company on how consumer product companies, FMCG companies in India use inkjet. So that was one of our initial interactions with the brand owners. We did another project on digital color production in India. We did another multi-client project in 2010-2012, where we did 2,000 interviews around the country. We did a very interesting project for an equity investor that this equity investor wanted to invest in an Indian company, but what happens if an IPO cannot happen? What are the exit strategies? So we did that project. We did another project for an Indian packaging company. We did another project on consumable research, consumables in India, consumption of certain kinds of consumables in the Indian industry. We did another project for a global software manufacturer, which is still ongoing. And we're doing another project which is for a global equipment and consumable manufacturer. And recently we've also done a customer satisfaction survey for a major digital press manufacturer. And we have one other ongoing project where we don't have a client yet for the Indian book publishing industry, where we have done 300 interviews around the country and we need to do another 700. We don't have a client, so whenever we get a client, we put that project on the back burner. Next slide. These are some of our consultancy clients: Thomson Press, Delhi Press, New Tech, Punjabi Press, Tata Press, Amrita Bazaar, Malayalam Manorama, a large international non-profit organization in India. That was UNICEF, in fact, but part of our non-disclosure agreement is that we cannot put their name there. We work for UNICEF in Bangladesh also. We work for the Business India Group. We work for the Pioneer Daily, which was the first newspaper where the journalists made pages by themselves. We worked there as a technology consultant. We worked for Himal Media in Nepal, helping them install their heat set press. We've done some work for a commercial printer and monocarton manufacturer's new plant. And we've worked for a European equipment manufacturing company recently. And we've also worked recently for a European consumer product company, retail company, to help them find good packaging vendors in India. They were importing from India. They want to import more from India. They want to import less from China. But they are enormously under strain by the bad packaging they get from India. Okay, huge problem. Rub-off, corrugated cartons that smell, stink, mold. I mean, and we address these issues by actually doing a vendor development program. Okay, next slide. These are some of the IDEA Alliance members. Actually, there are 11 or 12 IDEA Alliance members already in India. And as you will see, the preponderance of IDEA Alliance members in India are from the packaging community. 1 or 2 label printers, 1 or 2 commercial printers, but mainly packaging printers. Okay, Kumar Printers is a packaging printer. Express is a pre-media company for outside. Kemka is a packaging company, as well as he's now also a brand owner. Letrographics, which is a very good label company in Ahmedabad. Singhania Offset, which is a commercial printing and packaging company in Hyderabad. Image Gravure in Ahmedabad. Singhania Offset has come again. And Sai Packaging, which is in Bangalore and Faridabad mainly. They also have a plant in Vizag. So these are some of our websites. The first 2 are for our magazine, and the last 3 are for the IDEA Alliance. So this is a little bit about our organization. You have the brochure of IDEA Alliance India, and if you would like to become a member, I have the membership forms. The 3 levels of membership are for individuals. Actually, the individual membership we do not encourage. It is only for people who we expect to become consultants in helping you go into color management. So we encourage certain people to become members who we think will become the Indian experts in the long run. Then we have a membership, that is 10,000 rupees for individuals per year. It's an annual membership. And for companies below 100 crore, it's 25,000 rupees a year. And for companies above 100 crore, it's 55,000 rupees a year. So these are the annual subscriptions. And we are expecting, and as you can see, we already have members from all over India. And we expect this to grow gradually as the program goes on. Okay? So I think I have taken more than my share of time. And now I will introduce Steve Smiley, who I first met in Drupa, then I met him in China Print, and then I met him in Graph Expo in Chicago. Essentially, Steve is a photographer. He is a person who's worked in newspapers. And for the last 15, 20 years, he has worked especially with packaging. And he's worked with some of the big brand owners globally, and he's worked with some of the big converters globally. And on behalf of the big brand owners, he's had to travel all over the world trying to establish the integrity of their brand and the quality of their brand. So I will start with Steve Smiley's first presentation.
And I'd like to start off by thanking y'all for coming to hear what I had to say. And again, I want to thank Naresh and IP Star and BMPA for inviting me and hosting this meeting today. This was a presentation that we used just to talk a little bit about color management and how to get everybody on board with what we really do in production day in and day out. And by using the numbers, communicating the numbers, we can align what we're doing across the different supply chain partners. Printing to the numbers. Do y'all print to numbers? And again, I'd love interaction, so if you have comments, raise your hands, jump in. I'm looking for feedback and for this to be an interactive conversation, especially between the printers and the brand owners. I saw a hand in the back. Printing to the numbers, everything that we do can be defined numerically, and it can be quantified and communicated from brand owners through the supply chain. Today, primarily, we work in design with RGB files, photography's in RGB. RGB is all based around light. Projectors, phones, cameras, they're all using light. They all work in RGB. When we print subtractive color. It's all CMYK. I like to point out to people that yellow is minus blue. It's just a filter that pulls the red and green out and lets the yellow come back through. Magenta is minus green, cyan's minus red. RGB, again, is additive. When we add the green, the red, and the blue together, we make white. We can't print with red, green, and blue because red absorbs green and blue absorbs green and red. So if we tried to print with red and blue, we'd end up with black. You can't use red, green, and blue in printing if they overprint other colors. Now, y'all are all probably looking a bit at doing 7-color printing, so it's a little bit different. They're not the pure pigments of red, green, and blue. CMYK, it's a subtractive process. Again, yellow's minus blue, magenta's minus green, cyan's minus red. As a press operator or training press operators, when we tell people what do you do? Something's too dark and too red, or too light and too red, you can add cyan and it minuses the red back out. And it makes it a simple way of working. But these numbers are all kind of ambiguous. So for every process, CMYK or red, green, blue is somewhat meaningless. You've got to put a number on top of those. Every device that we use today prints different, but from a brand standpoint, I have to have all my packages look the same. If I have a room full of Coke cans and we're going up to buy one and one of them is the wrong color, our brains tell us that there's something wrong with that can, so people don't pick it up. They'll buy the ones that's probably too old. Well, it probably wasn't too old, it was just printed with the wrong color. This was, again, a presentation that Dr. Sharma had done. He has several devices in his facility. When he prints 100 yellow, 100 magenta on these 3 devices, he ended up with completely different results. The numbers were there. It was 100 yellow, 100 magenta, but we don't get the same results out of it. When we print to the numbers, we define these colors in LAB. LAB is the color space that our eyes see. It was developed in 1931 and then fine-tuned a little bit in 1976. But by taking the lab numbers for each one of these, we can compare what my aims are and what we got off the printing process. So we have a number that we can put to it called the delta E, which is the visual difference that we can do on anything we produce. Brand owners can share that, and this is where I'm going to keep going all afternoon. If the brand owners don't tell us what their tolerances are, as printers, we're not going to make them happy. So I'll go through as we go through the day and talk about responsibilities for everyone in the supply chain, but it's key that we communicate what our expectations are, what our aims are, and if we do it digitally, numerically, we can all take a device and measure it and know exactly what the LAB is for something from one system to another system. If we look inside one of the data sets that we print to, FOGRA 39, Grackle, Japan Color, inside those data sets, you see the cyan value here and you see the LAB value for it. The interesting thing that we're going to talk about as we go through the day is this LAB value for cyan is the same for Grackle as it is for FOGRA, as it is for Japan Color. We work together as an international community aligning these so work can look the same no matter where it's printed in the world. There's many tools and pieces of software available. This is one that's used for proofing. I have a target value, and then I have the actual measured value. It tells me what the delta E's are, tells me what the average is, and the max is. The consumer products companies I work with today all demand those reports back after the job is done. If you've hit their numbers, you've pulled the report, many of them require you to upload that data into their database. If you've done that, you've satisfied their needs. But how do you do it with your inks? Where do you get those inks from? How do you communicate with the ink guys? You can't just tell an ink guy, I want this LAB value, because he could make this red out of 15 different formulas. And it would look right in a view booth under D50 lighting, but it's not going to look right when we put it in a store and we have a little bit of this light, a little bit of sunlight coming in. So we've got to really define ingredients as we define colors. But for CMYK, we do define everything in LAB. There's many different ink manufacturers around the world, the pigments are slightly different. If we said for cyan we have to use this particular set of ingredients, then we said you have to use this pigment manufacturer. So in CMYK we don't do that unless in packaging a brand owner says you have to use the correct ingredients because this cyan is the primary piece of my job. And then in that case you've got to communicate that back with the supply chain. I'm going to go back into proofing just a little bit. The proofer we have outside here has 7 colors in it. If I make this red on that proofer, I'm probably going to use at least 4 or 5 of those colors. It'll look right in a view booth, but it's not necessarily going to, I love to tell my customers to take a printed sample and a proof and walk through their buildings. And as the lights changes, the 2 colors get closer together and further apart. Proofs are meant to be used, and it's required that they're viewed in a D50 view booth. The key takeaway in this is all the data is defined for every color that we're going to print. We have 1,600 patches inside of an ICC profile that we load up on our RIPs. When we do our iterations, typically ICC profiles have a lookup table with 40,000 numbers in it that says this CMYK is this lab, this CMYK is this lab. So if I go from camera to RGB, LAB, then to CMYK, all the pieces fit and I can make all my devices align with each other. ID Alliance is all based, their certifications is all based on printing this target. This is an ISO control strip. Fogra has one. There's a new one out that's a 3-row target that has a little bit more variation in colors. But essentially it's got solids, it's got 75s, it's got 40s in it. It's an ISO standard. If you make a proof for someone and that's not on that proof, or you receive a proof and that's not on the proof, you don't know where it was made. You have no way to check the manufacturer of that proof to validate that they made it accurately. Where we're going to talk today is about everyone in the supply chain and where their responsibilities lie. As a proof provider, if you're not putting that on there, you're not really making a proof, you're making a nice picture. If you're receiving proofs and that's not on there, what do you print to? Are you going to spend an hour or 2 hours setting the job up because you had something that wasn't off of a calibrated system? The aim, did I hear a, y'all can jump in, help me with that one. You can ask questions too. There's some posters and guidelines that we put together that are inside of these books that define what the color aims are for every printing condition. So we have them for newsprint, commercial print, SCA, which would fall in line with gravure, sheet fed offset, flexo, corrugated. It's really been well defined, so globally we can communicate. Do y'all use lab data in your day in, day out work? Show of hands. Okay, I'm going to bet that almost everybody in here uses lab data in their daily life, whether they're aware of it or not. If you were to print to Grackle, Fogra, SWAP, CRPC6, any of the color spaces that are international standards, you use LAB in your workflows. If you make a proof, you're using LAB in your workflows. If you're using a device, even if it shows density, all the modern devices today are spectrophotometers. They'll show us density that a press operator would use, but the data is actually in LAB to define that color space and that color. When we use LAB for communicating from proof or for certain supply chain partners, there's no ambiguity there. Everyone's talking about the same values. So if I called you from Dallas and asked you to print something in Mumbai for me, and this is the LAB value, you hit that LAB, D50 2 degree, and I wanted to hit that one a little harder too. For 20 years, the printing industry, D50 2 degree is the standard. Some brand owners have asked us for D65 10 degree, which In the case of a Hershey, the brown between D52 and D6510 is a delta E of 6. It's two different colors. It's so critical that the settings are right on these devices. All the data sets that we use for FOGRA, Grackle, Japan color, they're all made in D52 degree. Today, when we design something and we view it on a monitor, that monitor is using LAB to correlate the RGB from the monitor to what our eyes see. It's all run with LAB in the heart of it. If we make a proof, when we print, when we develop inks, really every piece that we do, if you touch Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, even the very early versions of it that didn't show us LAB values, we were using LAB at the heart of it. The instruments aren't scary, they're easy to use, but I'll talk about this more and more. It's important that everybody in your office understand it, and that the people on the third shift or the second shift and the first shift all align. It's one number. This color is an LAB value of, come on, wake up. It's back up at the top. 4374 minus 2. Anywhere in the world, that would read exactly the same thing. The other thing that I wanted to show you that's inside here that we're going to continue moving through is as I took that reading, I actually measured the ingredients of that ink. Yes, sir?
This is not device dependent. So if I have a different brand of device, still the LAB value would be the same?
In older days, that was true. So in 2009, ISO wrote a 13655, and the new device, the old devices allowed this device to have a flashlight lamp in it. It could have had an LED lamp. It could have had a pulse xenon lamp. Today, the requirements for these devices are very, very tight, and all of the new devices, and again, I hate to tell people that have bought spectrophotometers 10 years ago, all the new devices are very, very close to each other. So as long as you had, and the Teshkans have it, the Konica Minoltas have it, the X-Rights have it, I'm missing one. All the new devices, if they are M0, M1, are very, very close to each other. M1 in a device, in the modern devices, mean they use the same D50 light source as we have in our view booth. Part of the reason color management had its failures in it is the old devices had a flashlight lamp, and then we would go look at it in a view booth, and the two didn't align. There wasn't enough blue in a flashlight lamp to excite the blue in the ink, so you couldn't, it just didn't align right. Old devices were typically, prior to 2010, typically they were a delta E of 3.5 apart, even in the same line. So many of the brand owners I work with had said, you will use a Greytag Macbeth, Spectral Eye, you're going to, they all defined devices 10 years ago. It's not required today. And I'm trying to get that, we have written it into standards, so maybe the brand owners won't tell you if you're doing Coke work, buy this device, if you're doing Pepsi work, you buy this device. As a printer, it's really difficult to have everybody's system, because these devices were rubber bands and didn't read the same way. Yes, sir?
All these devices are calibrated again to some reference.
Yes, sir.
So if I have device from A company or B company or C company, but all of them are calibrated to the standard, they are going to read the same value.
Yes, sir.
But this calibration also needs to be done periodically. Every year, once a year, you need to calibrate these devices.
The standard says that you shall calibrate these at the instrument manufacturer's required intervals. So they need to go back in and have the bulbs changed, adjusted. What the old devices had done, NIST is the standard white patch certification body. Teshkon used to use BAM. BAM bought their patches from somebody that NIST certified. So by the time they used that white plate, they were a delta E of 2 off what Greytag Macbeth was doing. The same thing with Konica Minolta. Today, all of these devices are using NIST for their white point calibration. And you make a good point. When I put it on the plate and say calibrate it, all I'm doing is aligning this device with the numbers. If this bulb had dimmed a little bit and I don't send it back to the factory, it could have some issues in it. You guys know about Net Profiler?
I have a question here. If the substrate changes from gloss to matte and matte to gloss, will it change the electrical levels?
Yes, sir, it will. So the reflection properties of it will change depending on whether the substrate's matte or gloss.
If the viewing angle changes,
Mm-hmm.
will it matter in terms of something is, you're measuring it head on, so you're getting an LED there. But the viewer in the shop is using a different.
All of the devices that I've talked about with the Teshkons, the X-Rights, Greytags, Konica Minoltas are all 045 devices. So the light goes at one angle and comes back, it goes down at 45, comes back at 0, or goes in at 0 and comes back at 45. Gloss will have an effect on it, just like a varnish has an effect on it. Now, a couple of things that are available today, as long as y'all brought up these great questions. This is a new card that ID Alliance is doing some testing with in the United States. These cards are all measured and aligned to each other, so I can measure this card with any device into a database, and it will tell me that this device matches the device in my other facilities or in other parts of the world. As I work some in South America, they've told me that the cost of shipping this back to the United States for calibration is $1,500 plus an additional fee. So X-Rite has recommended in the U.S. or in South America that they buy Net Profiler and you just check it with Net Profiler, which is a card that they've made based off that NIST chip. It's not quite as close as going back to the factory to be checked. But did somebody drop the device on the third shift? If you're not checking it with something, you never know.
I have a pointer for Naresh. Naresh, all these manufacturers, these devices, as I said, need to be recalibrated over a period of time. But in India, we do not have such facilities. None of the manufacturers are providing it. So how do we go about it? Can you just think about it and take up with the manufacturers about this?
I also have a Greytag XY spectroscan. Okay, and I'm not sure that X-Rite is going to support me in whatever I need to do to check it, because it's not in perfect condition maybe. So yes, this is a serious problem for those of us who spend a lot of money on some of these instruments.
The
Yes.
X-Rite instruments, you have to ship it to Switzerland, they will do the calibration. I mean, these
I
are
see.
the impractical things in India. If you have facilities here, maybe over a period of two or 3 days you can get back your instrument, then it makes easier.
This is an issue, and I think you're going to get an answer from these manufacturers like Mr. Komori. He says, if you buy 100 of my machines, I will start a training center. Okay, so these guys are also going to say, if you buy 100 of our Spectros, we will make a fixing center. So yeah, I mean, I have no answer. I think the better answers will come eventually from
Net Profiler.
yeah. So Net Profiler, which is
People are using it.
cheap and maybe not perfect, but
It works.
it works.
I will bring that back to the manufacturers because I've had all of them sitting at a table measuring plates before. That's where we found out that they were each using different white plate certification bodies. When we first sat down with them and looked at the old instruments, we were seeing the delta E's of 3.5 to 5. When they brought these in to the new standard, we were still seeing delta E's of 3, but when we normalized the white point to NIST requirements, they all dropped down to a half a delta E. So we have been meeting regularly. This is going on both at FOGRA and in the United States. So I will pass that back on. It's a challenge for me where in my old company, I used to have 15 scanning devices that we were using to calibrate proofing machines. We had to send them all in very close to the same time to make sure that they were aligned, and it was very expensive.
So how would you measure Coca-Cola red on a metallic can like you have over there?
I'm going to get to that later, but I would measure it with this device, and I was going to show you all that. So there's some rules around which device to measure with, what you're getting out of it. So and that depends. Do I want to see the actual color, or am I doing process control of an ink film thickness? What I kind of wanted to finish this presentation up with, though, is the fact that using lab data across all the supply chain partners finally enables us to go from what the designer sees to what we get off press anywhere in the world and have predictable results. This is not what I would do with lab only for packaging. For packaging, we're going to take that a step further on how we communicate with the ink manufacturer and how he brings data back to us. ICCs in the workflow literally walk all the way across every stage in this. And as we were talking in Delhi, and most people said we don't use LAB, we have it in every system that we do. All digital front-end systems are all using LAB color spaces and ICC profiles. All process control tools are using LAB color spaces. We can do things subjectively. The wine smells nice, it's a little bit fruity, or we can do it objectively and we can actually put a number on it. I do a lot of work for Diageo, and we've started taking the liquids that we do and actually measuring the liquids with a spherical instrument with a light source back on the back to make sure the consistency is the same in all of their whiskeys. CMYK and RGB are pixel values, but really 100% cyan is meaningless unless I affix that to an LAB value that has a defined point in color space. And I will finish up Dr. Sharma's presentation when I take these colors that didn't match at the very beginning and I use an LAB color space to remap these colors. It's still CMYK 100 in the file, but as it's gone through the color space, it's adjusted those colors to where my final output's the same. I can get there a whole bunch of different ways. I need to burn off calories. Each one of them is going to require a little bit different stuff. But by using a common format, I can come up with the same results. And I'm going to hit this a little harder. One more time. Photoshop, everything we see in Photoshop, you can open up the lab values and see the lab values in it.
Steve, can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes, sir? So,
I think this is very important for the audience here.
Okay. So if we define things by CMYK, as a designer, I can put CMYKs in a file. But if I don't include the ICC profile, I haven't told you what it is. I can communicate with RGB values, but if I'm not tied into the ICC profile, I don't know what RGB that is. So RGB is the heart that makes CMYK and LAB, or CMYK and RGB align with each other. Thank you. Every device that we use today has ICC profiles included in the workflow. And even where on an offset press you may think you're not doing it, when I measured this color and I go in here and I look, at that color, I see a spectral curve. It tells me what the ingredients of that ink are. This device doesn't read LAB, it reads the spectral curve. And it takes that spectral curve and can calculate density out of it. It can calculate LAB out of it, which is what we have to communicate with the ink manufacturer. Mr. Prasad is going to come talk to us about, if you give him an LAB value for this, he could make it out of 15 or 16 different recipes. They're not going to look the same. We've got to define the ingredients when we're doing packaging.
All right. You done with this?
I think I've probably hit these.
Yeah. Okay. We have got things a little bit out of order. I apologize for that. We were supposed to do a kind of a brief introduction. The idea is to find out who is in the audience and what are some of the pain points they experience in their day-to-day work about implementation of packaging, etc. Both from some of the brand owners we would like to hear, and we would like to hear from some of the converters. Yeah?
Yeah, good evening. I hope you all are enjoying yourselves so far. We still have to come to the business end of the seminar. We have a lot of brand owners and companies representing their brands here. BMPA is, for this is a very colorful seminar for us. In the BMPA, we normally don't see so many colors with so many ladies over here. Thanks to you all. I have a question to all you brand owners before I ask you to introduce yourselves. There was a famous tagline, whenever you see colors, think of us. Any guesses? Which brand is this? No, not Asian Paints. It's, somebody said Jensen? Yes, sir. Mr. Prayagi has got it right, but you would have. What I will request the audience, especially the companies represented by the brand owners, is if one of you from your team could just tell us which company you represent and what do you expect out of this seminar or what your problems are. Right, Mr. Smiley? Okay. The pinpoints. Can we have a mic in the audience? Yes, would you like to start?
Hello. Hi. Myself Jayashree Bapat. I am from Unilever. So we and my team, we have come here. So we manage the designs, basically artworks, across all the categories in Unilever HUL for India. And so our key and major critical pain point is that managing the color, okay? Managing the design, content, artworks are okay. But when it comes on the shelf, as a Unilever brand equity, then it spoils our brand image. We want to have, as a brand, any one brand in different formats or coming from different printers, when it comes on a shelf, it should look alike in terms of color, consistency, and quality. So that is somewhere we feel that's still missing, and we expect more from our printers that they should follow these color standardization kind of standards, align to it, and then give us a good quality printed packaging material.
Great. You know, there's one more color associated with standardization. You know what that is? The color of green, money.
Yeah, my name is R.S. Prasad. I am from Sakata Inks. So, yes.
Yes, please. Go on, you can. Okay, great. That's a big team.
My name is Shrikant Arkadi. I'm from DIDS Alia, and I'm working with the HUL team for color management activity.
Okay, so we have the HUL contingent in force here. Can you just pass it on behind?
Yeah, I'm KPA Shetty. I'm from Sai Packaging. Sai Packaging Bangalore, we are a UGRA certified company. We are already working on colors. So basically as a printer, right now from HUL we have heard the pain point. Printer, what happens is that the artwork and the shade are two different things what we receive. So those are all not the same. That's when recently we were working with HUL also, and we were discussing that in fact Alia also is involved in that discussion where we wanted to standardize. We also agree that on the shelf it all should look the same. Thank you.
So can I paraphrase that? And what you're saying is that you're asked to do things that you can't do. You're asked to print things that you cannot do because of your process.
Some of the things they ask you to achieve are well nigh impossible. Can we?
Hi.
Hi.
We're from Pidilite.
Okay.
And I think you must be knowing of our brand Fevicol, Hobby Ideas. So, same problems, I think different substrates, colors change.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you pass it on?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Trupti from Marico Limited. I have my colleague Ronak, and we also are basically figuring out how we can standardize the color all across the substrates. Plus, how can we get color consistency with every lot that we get at our manufacturing site. Other thing is, can we have, you can say, a different innovation in color which can avoid a pilferage kind of a thing, and which can be easily identified by the consumers, plus that cannot be duplicated easily. So pilferage and duplicacy is what we are also trying to get.
That, I guess you're talking about putting in security features in your products.
Through colors.
Okay. Well, Mr. Smiley, I don't know if you have anything on that.
I'm going to...
Okay, great.
Hi, Vinod here. I'm here to see a standardization across all the printers and packaging material. I'm from
You are from?
Godrej.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Santosh. I representing Colgate. I am basically an artwork specialist. I create all the artworks for Colgate, as well as I'm responsible for the shade card approvals. As of now, I have not faced major issues from my printers, but probably during the course of this event might understand like there are some issues. Hopefully not.
Okay, can you just pass?
Arun Rawat, QT Packaging. After measuring the LAB values, how do we now correct it and bring it to the exact color required? That's a big pain point.
Okay. So that's your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. This is Rajesh from MEPEX with my colleague Adrian. The issue remains the same, color consistency between two printers. So how do we get that? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Kaustubh. I'm here with my colleague William and Siddesh. We are from AMCO. We are a UK-based pharmaceutical company, and I handle the printer proofs, the artwork implementation part of it. And the main thing we face is the color difference. We mainly use, most of the time we use the Pantone color shaker, and we have to use the digital printer proofs. So I'm here to look forward to it. How can this seminar will help us. Thank you.
You said you use digital printed proofs. So your issues are with the matching between the digital and offset. Okay.
Hi, I'm Animesh Kejriwal from Parsons Graphics. We've done a fair amount of standardization across our CMYK and LAB special color prints. One of the issues we still face is a discrepancy across measuring devices, the SpectraEyes and I1s and exacts, and that still leads us to believe on how much we can rely completely on the numbers and how much we still need to have some sort of visual check on the proofs and the calibrations. So I'm not sure, while the theory's been there for a while, practically how successful it's been just going blindly by the numbers, and that's something we'd like to see and learn more on, hopefully.
Hi, I'm William from AMCO. I just wanted to understand, how do you decide the range for an LSD, and what should be the delta E value for from a brand owner's point of view?
Again, I wanted to understand what y'all's concerns were to make sure that I address them as we go through the rest of the presentation.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Rahul here from Akar Limited. My query is, though we follow a lot of standardization in our production process, the customers don't have any standardizations at all when they send us the artworks. They expect a lot of things out of us, but due to their unstandardization, the results are practically weird many a times. So how do we bridge that gap?
That's what we're here for, teaching them as well.
Hello, my name is Sandeep Purino. We are from Navneet Educations Limited. Now we are going for GMI standardizations. To know more about colors, means the difficulties in colors, we are to know all the things. We are going for GMI standardizations. Graphic Major International.
Hi, this is Ruchita from General Mills. Our pain point is same, the color consistency across the lots. Plus, we also want to highlight for some of our products, we have multiple suppliers as a backup. So the output from different supplier is different, it is not consistent. And one more point I just want to add on is how do we reduce the window for the LSD? The same, it was raised earlier. So that's it.
Hello, good evening. Myself Ravindra Bhago, and I'm from Sun Pharma, and I'm an artist and making the artworks for basically Europe markets and US as well. My prime concern is that when I'm mentioning the artwork codes, and we used to apply the Pantone shades, we never use flat colors. So we start doing that. Should we start?
We'll talk about how Pantone fits in the workflow and maybe a better way to communicate.
Yeah.
So he'll address your question later.
Thank you.
You can just pass on the mic, right?
I'm Natraj from Cisco Industries Private Limited, Surat base. We have got in-house metallizer. We are working on a down gauging structures. Okay, and when we do this reverse metallization, we find a problem in color changes. How do we overcome this?
Mr. Prayag.
This is Suresh Vaidya from jabong.com. We are going to printing on Juice magazine, and basically we are going printing on map-litho paper. It's not a getting standardization, the grade paper. It's very difficult to get the consistency in the large quantity magazine. So I will explain that next time.
One more back there.
Can you?
I'm Subrato. I'm representing Aqua Packaging Private Limited. My query to you is that what should be the shelf life of a printed carton? This is a pain point as far as irrespective of the color consistency is concerned. That is also a pain point for us. Because apart from that, the main issue is that how long should a printed carton be kept on the shelf?
I'd like to share some pain points I've had and some good parts that I had. My name is Fred Poonawala. We're a pre-press company. The last 35 years I've been struggling to give good proofs to our customers. We've had the old method of flatbed proofing on various papers, ink on paper. And the greatest joy, I mean, we've never cracked the problem completely, but the greatest joy that I have had is when I did with our customer, Condé Nast magazine, we worked with the ISO workflow, right from the GMG proof to the digital file to the printing process. And the proof and the printed product were so equal to each other. I mean, that was the joy of my life, that seeing that we'd actually cracked a proofing problem with the final printed product in a machine that prints at 45,000 impressions an hour. And it was exact. So that was really a joy to see. And that can be done. It proves that color management does work.
Great. Yeah, okay. Last question.
I'm Himanshu from Venus Infotech, and I'm a FOGRA certified validation expert. those of you who have questions, I'm available here at the Epson counter. Please do come and meet me on those.
Okay, so before I hand over to Mr. Smiley, this is what exactly, as I understand, is standardization is what we are looking at across media. As Fred just said, even an international magazine like Condé Nast, which sitting somewhere abroad, has sent them files, and they were able to print it absolutely accurately, simply because standards were followed right from stage one. This is what it is all about, color standardization and G7 for brand owners and converters. Over to you, Mr. Smiley.